Did Ottoman sultans take their women to war? This video takes you deep into the heart of Ottoman history, a world of love, power, and separation. While sultans led armies across distant lands, the women they loved remained behind palace walls, longing and waiting. Why were these women, the symbols of beauty and comfort, never allowed to follow them into war? The answer reveals both heartbreak and strategy. Behind the walls of the Ottoman palaces, the women of the harem lived lives isolated from the battlefields and the destruction of war. This was not by chance or tradition alone, it was a decision born from painful experiences and harsh lessons in Ottoman history. Among these, the tragedy of Sultan Bayezid I and his wife Olivera during the Battle of Ankara remains one of the most heartbreaking and significant. The Ottoman harem symbolized the Sultan's honor and the dignity of the palace. Having women present on the battlefield was seen as a direct threat to this honor. Therefore, it was natural for sultanas and concubines to remain inside the palaces, protected behind walls and kept far from military dangers. The greatest fear was their capture and humiliation in the event of defeat. In 1402, the famous Battle of Ankara took place between Sultan Bayezid I and Tamerlane. The crushing defeat suffered by the Ottomans was not just a military loss, it became a personal and human disaster for the Sultan's family. Bayezid was captured, and his Christian wife, Olivera, was also taken. She was publicly humiliated, forced to serve Tamerlane nearly naked in his court. Olivera's tragedy was not just a personal incident, it was a wound to the pride of the entire Ottoman state. Her humiliation in front of prisoners and soldiers became a harsh lesson for every sultan who came after Bayezid. Seeing her forced to serve Tamerlane was a psychological blow to the captive sultan, who later died heartbroken and shattered in captivity. This painful experience taught the Ottoman sultans an unforgettable lesson: there was no place for women on the battlefield. From that moment on, no wife or concubine was allowed to accompany the sultan on any military campaign, no matter the circumstances. The goal was to protect the honor of the harem and avoid repeating the tragedy that befell Olivera and Bayezid. Ottoman wars were built on a strict system of discipline and military commitment. The presence of women could cause confusion and lower soldiers' morale. The orders were clear: no women, no families, and no harem members on the battlefield. The Sultan would march with his army, leaving the palace women under the care of the eunuchs and harem officials in Istanbul. During the Sultan's absence, the sultanas and concubines followed the news of battles from behind palace walls. Fear, anxiety, and long periods of waiting marked their daily lives during these times. The Sultan fought knowing that the dignity of the palace rested on his victory or defeat, for each loss could mean a new disaster like the one Bayezid and his wife endured. Despite the general rule, there were rare occasions when some sultanas traveled for non-military reasons, such as temporary relocation to safer places during internal unrest or political conspiracies. However, these movements never led them to battlefields. Wars always remained a place for men, reserved for the army alone, without the presence of palace women. The tragedy of Bayezid and his wife Olivera remained etched in the memory of Ottoman sultans for generations. It was not just a memory but an unwritten law that governed palace behavior during times of war. Thus, the decision to keep women inside the palace during military campaigns became one of the unwritten secrets that preserved the Ottoman state's dignity and prestige both at home and abroad.